Hey guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Matilda. If you're not, thank you so much for clicking on my video again. Today, as you can see from the title, we're going to be talking about some culture. So some of you guys know and some of you don't. Well, if you don't, I am Nigerian and I am a Yoruba girl. If you don't know what Yoruba is one of the three major ethnic groups in Nigeria. There's two other main ethnic groups, the Igbo and the Hausa, but there's so many other ethnic groups in Nigeria, like the Ibibio, like the Tiv, the Efik. There's so many Fulani as well. There's so many. You can't even count. I can't count. So many ethnic groups in Nigeria, but there's three major ones, and Yoruba is one of the three major ethnic groups. They're mostly predominantly in the southwestern part of Nigeria. There's also Yoruba people in other countries like Togo, Benin Republic, and Brazil apparently. But anyway, guys, like I said, I'm Yoruba, and every now and then I like to share a little bit of my culture because it's not like a very big people, but it's a very big culture. Yoruba culture is a very vast culture, and I don't even know like half of quarter of half. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know that much of it, but the little bit I know, I still want to put it out there and just like educate people on my culture because I love my culture. It's a very rich culture. Growing up, I was not a fan of a lot of things and I didn't see the reason why a lot of those things needed to be done. But the more I look into it, the more I see how beautiful it is. So I just like to kind of like share a little bit of it here and there to people. It's a pretty small people, but a very strong culture, I would say. Today, we're going to be talking about names. I'm going to be breaking this video into about 3 or 4 parts only because I don't want to make each of it too long because I want to go not too in-depth, but, you know, a little bit into it to make a little bit of sense. And I don't want the videos to be too long, so I think I'm going to break it into 3 or 4 parts. So I'm going to be posting that. I haven't created a schedule for it yet, but I'm going to be posting that. So make sure you look out for that. And if you don't want to miss that, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you know whenever I post a new video. Let me give you guys a little bit of a backstory into why I decided to make this video. So being born and raised in Nigeria and my first name being Matilda, which is an English name, one of the biggest questions I got asked a lot was, what's your Yoruba name? It's a question that has trailed me literally all my life. Now, coming to the United States, it's also a question that I get asked. Oh, what's your African name? Oh, what does it mean? Or why is your African name so long? Or why is your name Matilda? Why do you have why do you have an English first name? Aren't you African? I'm like, yes, I'm African. So what's your African name? So I have to tell them my African name, and then next we go into, does it have a meaning? And yes, it does. What does it mean? Why did they name you that? And all of that. So usually I have to explain it a lot to people, and you know what I said? If people are asking me personally, that means a lot of people probably are thinking it without actually asking. But you know, I always like to go in depth into it and tell people, oh, Yoruba people actually like to put a lot of thought into the names of the child. You know, they name children. Yoruba naming is one of the big things in the Yoruba culture. There are naming ceremonies, and there are like days designated. There's people designated to name the child. There's a huge party. So the father, the mom, the grandparents, great-grandparents, sometimes the religious leader, either the pastor or the imam, are the close relatives are usually able to give at least one name to the child in most cases. For me, I have a bunch of names. You guys don't even want to know. I don't even know all of them, but I have a bunch of names, and I feel like a lot of people do not actually realize that when they hear this African names, they just go, why are your names so complicated? Or why are your names so long? And I'm like, because they have meanings? I'm like, yeah, because it's not just a word, it's a word with a meaning. Those names are carefully thought. There's a lot of thought put into them, a lot of emotions that are put into naming a child in the Yoruba culture. So I'm just here to shed a little bit of light and give you guys a little more insight into the names in the Yoruba culture and some of the little things that are considered when naming a child. So I'm going to talk to you guys about some names. Now, because I'm Yoruba, I only specifically know about the Yoruba culture. I mean, I believe that some of these things are similar in other cultures as well, but I can't speak for other cultures. I'm only speaking for the Yoruba culture and what I know. So, there are 2 main attributes to a Yoruba name. First, it usually, more often than not, can be shortened. I feel like 90% of the time a Yoruba name can be shortened. So usually you could have a name that could actually break down into 3 parts, or you could have a name that could break down into 2 parts, or you could have a name that could break down into, well, not 2 parts, but like 1 part could be gone and then the name would just be the middle part. So it's like William being called Bill, or like Rebecca being called Becky or Beck, something like that. So we have that in Yoruba names. So the names more often than not usually are able to be broken down because nobody wants to go around saying the full names. 2, Yoruba names have meanings all the time. Usually the meanings are based on either what the parent is feeling, the grandparent, whatever those people are feeling, the circumstances that occurred around the time that child was born. So depending on what was happening, thoughts and like the emotions of the parents or whoever is naming that child at the moment, or the circumstances of the child's birth, the things that happened around the things that happened when the child was born, or the circumstances that happened, who went through, or what even the birth of the child made the parents go through, or also prayers for the child or for the family. There's usually some kind of connection into the name. The names are not just usually random names. It's more now in this more modern era that people just say, okay, I think this name is cute, and they name the child that. But usually there's a lot of thought that is put into naming a child in the Yoruba culture. So for this video, we're going to be talking about, I'm going to be starting simple with you guys, and we're just going to be talking about names that are actually based off of nouns like joy and love and grace. Those names are very simple names. They're usually based off of pretty much nouns. Yeah, they're usually based off of nouns, but because, like I said earlier, Yoruba names are usually connected to something. These names more often than not are usually connected to like a godlike figure. So you're not just hearing mercy, you're hearing mercy of God, or grace of God, favor of God. You're hearing stuff like that, or gift of God. So these names are very, very simple. I would say they're usually very simple, and sometimes you would see like the kids who have that name, when they want to say their name, they say it in English instead of in Yoruba, or they say it in Yoruba instead of in English, whichever way. I did a little bit of research, so I'm just going to be giving you guys about 5 or 6 of each of these names, because there's so many. I wish I could go through like and tell you guys the meanings of all of them, but you can just go on Google. If you have a Yoruba friend and you don't know what their name means, just go on Google, type their name and put the meaning. So I'm just going to give you like 3 or 4, maybe 5 examples of names like this. So number 1, like I said, favor. You would hear ore. Ore means favor. That's ore. Now, if you remember the second attribute, I said the names usually are not by itself. It's usually a full name. So you wouldn't actually hear someone whose full name would be ore. It would be most likely, more often than not, Oreoluwa, which means the favor of God. Another name is Grace. Grace is Oreofe. Now, that name you would more often than not hear Oreofe Jesu or Oreofe Oluwa. I don't think I've ever heard Oreofe Oluwa. Mostly you would hear Oreofe Jesu. And that's another name, and that means grace. Another one is blessing. Blessing is Ibukun. This is a very, very common name. This name, there's people born in like the 70s, 60s, I think, that bear this name, and there's still people who are born today that bear this name. It's like a very non-generational name, I think. Yeah, so Ibukun means blessing. Another one is miracle, Iyanu, Yanu Oluwa. So most of these names, Oluwa means God. So when you hear Oluwa in any of the names, it's usually going to have something relating to God, because like I said, the Yoruba culture is a very rich culture, and it's a very religious culture. And even though most Yorubas now are either Christian or Muslim, Oluwa is still God, and they still have that deep reverence to a higher being, a supreme being. So most names are more often than not like linked to God. Let's go over those names. We have blessing, Ibukun Oluwa. That's blessings of God. We have grace, Oreofe, or Oreofe Jesu, Oreofe Oluwa, if there's Oreofe Oluwa. We have favor, Oreoluwa. That's favor of God. We have miracle, Iyanu. Grace, Oreofe. Mercy, Anu. So that's Anu Oluwa. That's how you say Anu. Anu. Now, a lot of people just say Anu, but it's actually Anu because it's 2 A's. Anu. We have Joy, which is Ayo. Now, Ayo is a name that goes with so many things, not Oluwa. There's probably Ayo. Yeah, there is Ayo Oluwa, but there's so many things. Ayo Mide, Ayo Mekposi, Ayo Mideji. There's so many Ayos because it's joy. So it depends on whatever the parent is attributing to that joy. Did the child bring joy? The child the second joy, the first joy, the bigger joy, the smaller joy, whatever it is. There's something attributed to the name. Guys, I'm gonna have another video on this topic very soon, so make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on post notification. Also, if you have any questions, please put it in the comment section below. I will get to it as soon as possible, of course. Like I said, I'm going to have another video on this very soon, and for that one I'm going to be talking about names that are influenced by the circumstances around a child's birth. So depending on if the mom had the baby on the way to the hospital or if the father was away, stuff like that. So little things that influence or that happen during the child's birth or around the time of the child's birth. We're going to be talking about those in the next video. So don't forget to subscribe and turn on the post notifications so that you know when I post that video. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.